Welcome to this episode of the Down the Pub podcast. On this episode, we are looking back at our game against Ford in the weekend. First of all, I wanted to thank the lads for stepping in last week. And, well, I'm going to be honest. They asked me could they do it because they wanted like a little bit more experience doing this kind of thing. And the kind of nice guy that I am, I let them do it. And I would like to say that they did an okay job.
We appreciate it, Anthony. We
God loves,
appreciate your kind words.
yeah, God loves a trier, but no, honestly, like I really appreciate you guys doing that, and it was awesome that you just kind of stepped in to do that for me because one of my kids wasn't feeling the Midwest, so yeah, I appreciate it.
Did he have rickets?
He did not have rickets. Okay, I have rickets. I need to start drinking more milk. So, yeah, but I really appreciate it. You just did a great job. And, I was kind of listening to the podcast and I was like, my two little fledglings are flying. Look at them go. But yeah, Dave and Derek is here, or should I say, the king of Halifax podcast is here, Derek Simon. Derek, you're everywhere. It's like every time I go onto my Spotify now, it's just you on fucking podcasts. It's like Jesus Christ, man. So
You can't avoid me. People are going to stop watching football in Halifax so they can avoid listening to me.
the two clubs went out of business because Derek has got podcasts about them. How's things going over at Shea Toys Pod? Is everything you've had a good start to the season, and are you guys doing okay over there? How's the podcast working out?
Good. Like we've transitioned kind of, preseason, we were doing a lot of interviews, obviously, and we've kind of transitioned into in-season mode and doing a lot more match recaps now. We had a great episode that just came out today with our friend Jimmy West, who runs another Tides podcast called the Tides Watch. And we recapped the Tides no-all draw in Toronto. And the team's off to a good start. I mean, it's like night and day compared to last season. So definitely a lot more fun to talk about too. So
Did you threaten Jimmy West in any way to say like we're the fucking only Tides pod around here, and then like
yeah, I think
take your
Martin was
fist?
already spreading rumors that the decrease in Wanderers Grounds podcast this year was because I threatened to break his other foot. So similar threats have been made against rival Giants podcasts.
Yeah, with Derek Soprano when it comes to fucking podcasts. Or I'm just trying to put off having to talk about the fucking game from the weekend. It wasn't good. So I don't think any of us were actually at the game. I had to watch from home. Derek, you were coaching or something, is that right? Or
I
what?
was away to scout camp actually. Yeah, I had to watch it later.
And Dave, you weren't there either, were you?
No, I was emceeing at a leadership conference actually just down the street all weekend.
Oh wow, that sounds incredibly exciting. Well, probably more exciting than the game, to be honest. But so yeah, so it was actually like I haven't gone to the first two games. I haven't been to a Wanderers game yet because of commitments and stuff like that. But it kind of was a good perspective to watch the game. I thought, just because when you're behind the goal, sometimes you kind of miss stuff, and obviously we've had a lot of changes go through the team and the systems that we're using. But I kind of wanted to just get your thoughts on where you think it went wrong for us because the first half especially was abysmal, if I'm being honest. And I know Derek Martin had said before preseason that it's okay for me to rant and whatever, it's because of what I do, but we are fans and we have to like be honest about what we're seeing in front of us. So what do you think didn't go right for us on Saturday? Sorry.
So I felt like we were dominated by a better, more organized team. We were bullied in our box. There was really no attacking output until they were starting to sit back and absorb a little more into the second half. The defending in the air is awful. This was something we talked about preseason, that we had a pretty short backline, which can, of course, be overcome if guys are bodying up to everybody. They're tight. They're quick in the box. They're quick of thought, even just bumping guys. But this is, again, another game in a row where we just get out jumped and nobody puts a body on like the best striker on the team. we're just not dangerous going forward at the moment. And once the forwards get the ball, which is not that often, if you look at their touches and pass numbers, there's just not enough around them to like do anything until we start to go out and on all out attack because we're down. So I thought we'd be a bit further ahead by this point, but I also, judging by what Vanny said in the post match, I feel like he's seen that, and we might see some changes moving forward now.
Yeah, I mean, I think Forge were better than us physically and technically, and we talked, as Dave said, I think it's a size difference all over the pitch that we're just a smaller team compared to them. And as he said, there are ways to deal with that, and there's ways you can coach your team to play physically so that you don't get bullied off the pitch. But we kind of did, and then they're obviously a very good team technically and tactically as well. I'll be honest, I mean, I had my reservations from the time I saw the opening lineup. And obviously with TMG out, I think it's a big hole to fill in the back line. A little surprised that he chose Linder to fill it just because he's the least experienced of the three center backs. So I might have thought that he'd have opted for one of the more experienced ones to kind of fill the middle and have Linder on the outside, which is where he's been playing up until now. He really struggled. I think he lost all of his aerial duels. And so his numbers were not great. Didn't seem to be a position that suited him particularly well. And then, Dave had asked sort of previously, what might it look like if Rampersad gets like a proper run into a game and is able to start, and that experiment didn't work either. Now, granted, Vanny said he made some tweaks in how the midfield was playing that may have contributed to some of our problems there, and that's what I start to wonder is like, are we trying to adapt too much to our opponents too early? And he said something about that maybe the players were confused or didn't understand the tactical instructions, and when you're settling in with a new team and a bunch of new players, you kind of want to get them playing one way effectively before you start, chopping and changing. And I feel like we've had kind of a different tactical look against most of our opponents, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I think it is when you're trying to get a team off on the right foot and have some consistency. So I just wonder if the lack of kind of consistency and that maybe we're varying our tactics too much from match to match.
I think Vanny kind of alluded to himself in the press conference that, he said, this is on me. I'm trying to get them to do too much or whatever whatever he said. I just think that there is a danger of like overcoaching and overthinking things. And I think as well for Vanny, I don't know if he realizes that obviously he's like a big scalp for everybody, right? So people are coming here, especially the coaches, against an ex-MLS coach who's won Canadian championships, and they want to beat him, right? It's a scalp for them, right? And I don't know if we've realized that teams want to beat us because of Vanny, right? So every game so far this season, haven't been able to get out of the blocks. We're just sitting back. There was a couple of sloppy passes which kind of set the tone for the first half, and there just seemed to be no cohesion whatsoever. And obviously there's one eye on the game next Saturday. Like putting Rampersad in, that's his first game starting off against Ford. A bit crazy. So Derek, I think like a big thing here is, I think we all expected us to be good from the get-go, right? And I think that was like because of who was going to be our coach.
Yeah.
But now obviously there's talks. We're talking about rebuilds, and it's going to be once you hear the word project, it means that things aren't going well, and they're trying to fix stuff in the background. But people bought into the Vanny thing because I think that we thought we were going to get instant success, and that's what Derek kind of talked a little bit about. That we're bringing in a coach to win us the championship, and now we're talking about rebuilds and projects. Are you going to give him that grace? Do you think that will resolve it with the team that we have? Because it just feels the squad that we have, and you look at the way Forge are and Calvary, it just doesn't seem to match up at the minute, does it?
Yeah, I mean he's on a 3-year contract, so I don't think there's any question that he's he's in it for a few years. I don't like talking about this as a rebuilding year. The main reason being a lot of the core pieces of the current team are not under contract for next season. So TMG is not under contract for next season. Lorenzo's not under contract for next season. In fact, we only have 2 players that are under contract for next season, and that's Carducci and Francesco Troisi. Nobody else is under contract. Our entire our three main center backs, none are under contract or option for next season. So if this year's a rebuild year, next year looks like one too. And so how long then is the project, right? I think we need to be able to find a way to turn this around and achieve something with the core we've got, because otherwise I think we're going to lose some key pieces at the end of the season. And that's what worries me, just looking at the length of the contracts. I could easily see, if this is not a successful season, if things don't go to plan, I think we lose some key pieces, and all of a sudden we've got, 11, 12, 15 new players next year. And then it's the same cycle all over again of saying, well, there's a lot of new players. We got to give it time. Right? So I think there's got to be a turnaround at some point this season. Otherwise, we're going to have some bigger problems.
Dave?
Yeah, I got a lot to think about and say here. So I'm willing to give Vandy the whole season, to be honest, but I don't know when we signed up for a rebuilding season. And again, it's not our decision, it's the club's decision of how they're going forward. But to me, I never heard one thing preseason about this is not us going for the championship. So again, 5 games, and I think Gary was talking about it on the pod with Josh, is not a huge sample size. What concerns me is just I'm not seeing the individual sparks from these players that I would expect to see more from now. When our subs went in, that was a different story. But again, it was a different game state than the first 60, 65 minutes where they were just shredding us. And every time we attacked, it seemed like they broke through us with 2 to 3 passes, and they were already 3/4 of the way down the field because our midfield had stretched and our defense hadn't closed that space in between. Bai looked great coming on. I thought Zitman had his best minutes when he was on the pitch. I thought that Bahambula looked his most dangerous of the games so far, and it was good to see Akinwale and his speed. I hadn't seen that speed yet, so that was good to see. Again, it is very early in the season, but I feel like I say this every year, except maybe the first year that we played was, whenever we play Hamilton and often when we play Calgary, I feel like it's a men against boys situation. And I'm not trying to offend any of our players. I think there's a lot of great talent on the field. It's just when I think about how teams manage the games, how the coaches react to some of the stuff in the games, how the players react to the games, how they react in the big moments. To me, Hamilton does that year after year after year. And we don't. I just feel like it's like watching I don't know, it's almost like an FA Cup game, Premier League against lower division with a lot of these games, and it shouldn't be, because these players should be pretty close to each other with the salary cap and everything. But when I see guys is it Ramza on Forge, I just they're just men all over the pitch, and then they sprinkle in the boys. But even their youth players, they're big time players. So I don't know what's wrong with our pipeline that we're not getting those type of players. I would really like to know what the club thinks the difference is with some of the recruitment.
One thing you always notice with Forge, we're 4 or 5 games into the season, and they obviously have their own little bits of turnover, but there's always a kind of core that kind of comes back. But when the new pieces fit in, they just feel like they've been playing there for years, right? They just get up to speed so quickly, and I think it's, whatever way they recruit, it just always seems to fit. It's not very often they have players that are kind of washouts, and it's being able to bring Becker in off the bench, to have that bit of experience and it's great to have him back and all that kind of stuff. But they didn't need him. for us, like, we seen like when we're missing big players, like we're missing a Lorenzo or we're missing a TMG, we struggle big time. Whereas these guys, like they're stalwart from day one, like isn't starting the season, and so it's kind of it is kind of a little bit frustrating. And it seems like we're now 8 years in, we're still talking the same things that Forge and Calvary are. They just seem to be always a step ahead of everybody, and they just seem to be able to attract a slightly higher caliber. And once again, it's not taking a dig at the players that we have, and obviously it's as you said. I mean, we're only 5 games in, so I'm not. It's not panic stations or anything like that. And I think it will click for us, but it's just that when you kind of put them side by side, we all seem to be starting from with a disadvantage that we're waiting to get us the click and for a team to come together, whereas Forge especially just seem to be able to click from the get go. So it's it just kind of feels a little bit like where do we how do we catch up, because we're all like there's already seems to be a bit of a split happening in the league, and we're only like 5 games in. So Derek, did you have any what's your thinking?
Yeah, I mean, again, I come back to the fact like, our departure point was sort of, is this a rebuild year? And we came into it with a, our the spine of the team was relatively intact. So the back line was relatively intact, the midfield was relatively intact, and some solid players in both positions. And it seems like some of the tinkering has maybe destabilized that a little bit. And so um, where the back line, we've got a new defensive system. We're playing zonal marking. There's some adjustment to that. That doesn't necessarily seem to be clicking. Maybe it will if you give it another few games. Maybe that piece comes together and all of a sudden we're more solid at the back and you're talking about a different games. But like, particularly in midfield, there seems to be a lot of tinkering, and that has maybe destabilized the partnerships that were already there. We're seeing great individual performances from Lorenzo and Isaiah in particular, but not necessarily a cohesive midfield as a whole. And then you look at the pieces that were kind of added. So obviously, what we needed to address was, wide players, particularly wing backs and strikers, and that's the at this point I still got my doubts about kind of our depth and quality in those positions. And again, maybe those players come good. I think some of them are young and have very high ceilings, and that's kind of what the club was pointing to this week, and saying, somebody like some of these players, are going to be longer term projects, but that's what the club is committed to, is playing these younger players. But again, like Dave said, that's a significant shift from the rhetoric we were hearing at the start of the season, which isn't we're building for the long term. It was we're competing for titles. And so the reality so far is it's just not matching the rhetoric we heard at the start of the season. And from a fan perspective, that's frustrating. And like, I agree with Dave. You give, it's 5 games is a limited sample size. You give Vanny till the end of the season. Maybe 5 games from now, 10 games from now, we're talking about, a massive resurgence and a turnaround. But it's also a short season, and so there's a limited window for that turnaround to happen. So
Yeah, like I kind of want to get your guys' opinion as well. Like, just we've kind of talked about it a little bit before, but like, where is like the function of our wing backs? Is it to get up and down the pitch? Because like Patrice kind of had those players, like when we had Zach especially trying to get into the boy line to get balls in, and you look at Maury Donor, the season he's having with Vancouver, like he's just constantly on the overlap and crossing balls in and creating chances. We just don't seem to have that. Like it seems to like a rerun of like last season's struggles at the start of the year, where we kind of we look nice, pass it along the back line, and then we get to the final third, and it's just like there's nothing, there's no creativity, and it did change a little bit when Bahambula came on and Boy came on, that you kind of have those guys that'll try and take on a fullback and try and create some crosses into the box. But like, what is the function in this system of what the fullbacks are trying to do, or the wing backs?
Man, to me, it looks like they're meant to support, but then be knocking balls into the box. Like I've seen Godinho get into the box that I remember. He's probably more, but in a dangerous position maybe one time this year, and it was against uh, Supra, and they had a nice little 1-2 on the right on the edge of the box, and they got around, and there was some kind of opportunity that we didn't score on. Troisi, again, like he's supporting. He's not coming inside. He's looking to get balls into the box. And then it just seems to change a little bit when you throw in someone like Bai and those type of players that they want to beat the player and get past. And I feel like in the second half, I saw what he wants them to do, which was like Aria was like pushing on, and they were trying to get some triangles with Lorenzo, Isaiah, Aria, and get a ball in the box. And I actually don't think it's a problem of not having enough bodies in the box to finish. It's just there hasn't been a lot of great product. And the one thing I saw in that last game was Hamilton won every first ball. So, I mean, like, how are the strikers going to do anything if it's not a perfect cross to them? There was some sparks, and I think we want to see more like what we saw with Perriman last year. You'll get up the box and then beat a player and then try and whip it in, right? Last year, our problem was we didn't have a striker in the box to finish it. This year, it's like the crosses aren't coming in, or it's the strikers who drift out wide and then try to get a cross in.
Because we've seen like we've seen that Cyprian can finish a cross, right? I mean, we've seen it. It was a brilliant finish for his goal. So I mean, like we do have the talent that's in the box waiting for it. But you're right, it just doesn't seem like there's much happening outside, and it's kind of I can imagine as a striker, it must be like frustrating as hell. You know that you kind of like the team is struggling and you want to help, but
Until they had 18 passes between the two strikers that started the game.
oh my
Total.
God.
Like 11 and 8 or 11 and 7, something like that. They just were not getting enough touches. So we have to remedy that. And whether that's us getting the ball carried up for further and them getting in more dangerous positions, or us getting them the ball and getting the bodies up the pitch, like I'm not sure what Vanny's going to come up with for a solution for that, because I don't think their hold-up play has been bad.
No, I think Cyprian's been pretty decent. Like, but you can't even comment on how Tabio's doing because you're right. You don't see him, right? So you don't actually know like is he doing good? Is he like he scored a goal obviously, and which is great for him. But I mean, it just feels, you know, he's like you're trying to develop this guy, but he's not going to develop if he's not getting any service or you know what I mean. It just kind of feels a little bit counterintuitive.
Well, and if you're any defense in the league right now looking at us, why wouldn't you push right onto our backs no matter where we are on the field? Because nobody's beating us with speed. Like Godinho's not burning down the side. Troisi's not burning down the side. So like I don't even know who would bring that speed on to punish that. So we need to figure out a way to punish these defenders for being right up on our strikers.
So you know like TMG failed a late fitness test, which was and Ryan Telfer obviously has been playing okay, and he had a fitness test too that he failed. So if this weekend TMG isn't starting, how would you tweak the back line to stop? Because you were right in what you said there. Like we were just beaten so easily in the air, and you know like Linder. I'm not trying to single anyone out and pick on them, but I mean, like he was nowhere for that first goal. He was like he just seemed to be all at sea, and that could be like from the zone marking or it's just inexperience. I don't know, but how do you guys tweak the defense?
Yeah, I'd certainly look at putting someone different in the middle of the back three if that's what we're going to continue with. I'd even consider maybe a back four, to be honest, because just I'm not sure the back three is working with those three particular individuals, but I think Sao or Alphonse are more experienced and would probably and keep Linder out on the right, or you move Sao to the middle and you come up with another solution for who's on the left, although I don't know who that would be because we don't have a ton of left-footed defenders. So I think maybe logically you have to go to Alphonse in the middle, push Linder out to the side, or like I said, switch to a back four. But yeah, it's challenging. And again, Telfer's been effective as the connector. I guess the question I have there is like, that's not really, I mean, that is, it says something too that he's the one playing that role and playing it most effectively, because that the guy's been, we've talked about this before, the guy's been a Swiss Army knife for this team. We signed him originally as like a chalk on your boots winger who was going to provide width, and then played him as a striker, and then he was a wing back for a bit, and now he's like the connection between the midfield and the striker, and which I don't think is not. I think he's got a skill set that works for it, but I don't think it's his natural position. So if that is something we need, how come we don't have somebody that's their natural position? And then yeah, it's just there just seem to be gaps in the roster compared to between what we want to do and what we actually have at our disposal. And given how many new signings there were, I don't know how that came about. I'm not buying this. At this point, I'm really not buying the whole, Vanny's been quite explicit about the fact that he feels a smaller roster is better, and that he wants, 18 players 19 players that are starting quality. I think we have maybe half that in terms of players that are starting quality, and some of them just do not look suited to the positions and the roles that our tactics and system dictate. And so I think there's some real recruitment challenges here, or some real, some misses in terms of recruitment. And hope to God we've certainly got the roster space. Hope to God we've still got some cap space, because I think we might need to look at some additions mid-season.
Yeah, I'd either go to like a very rigid 4-5-1 for this next game against them and just see if we can grind them. I think just from a feeling better about ourselves defense, that might work. Or we can basically just take the system that we have right now and make it a true 5-4-1. Give ourselves lots of support all over. Don't let them have any chances in the middle. Try and squeeze the game. Look for free kicks, corners, another penalty shot. That'd be great. And maybe if Telfer's back, just play him kind of like in front of, like, maybe he's the striker, which I hate seeing like 4 strikers on the bench. We're gonna have to do something about that. But Lorenzo and Isaiah together in that midfield, like get them playing together. If you're playing with 3 in there, I think Zitman's got to be the one. And then maybe try Bahambula on the right side and Bai on the left, and just give us lots of speed and see what that looks like. And then if those two get caught up the field, then we've got lots of support behind us. That's probably how I would go for this next match.
Yeah, sounds good. It's just, as I said, like, I don't mean to be like scaremongering or pressing panic buttons or anything like that. So we just have to kind of call it as we see what's in front of us, and it just feels like it's a work in progress rather than, and we kind of knew that was going to be part of it. I know that the rhetoric was we're going for a championship here, but it just feels like that it's still in a kind of an experimental phase, and we kind of need to get over that and find out what, like, instead of maybe tweaking everything for the team that's in front of us, as you said, like have our own style of play and start from there, so anyway, I just before I let this go, Dave, you want to do your player ratings there? Like, I know that's your
yeah absolutely. It's not pretty, I'm afraid. So we have, actually, this was actually kind of sad, I gotta say. So I actually had Bai and Jason Bahambula tied as our best ratings on the game, which is scary. I wanted to put my favorite player, Lorenzo, higher up on the list, but then I watched the replay and saw that he was again the last man keeping everyone on side for the third goal. And he was captain at that point. So I'm not having that. I love you, Lorenzo. Like, everything you do on the ball is just amazing, but we got to get this defense sorted out, and you can't be the last person back. There is just no excuse for that. I also thought kind of honorable mentions to Isaiah again with the goal. Keeper's getting closer though to that one, who had a 6.5, and then Akinwale I gave a 6.5. A lot of the other players today were just like very blah sixes. No one stood out great, and Linder I thought was like pretty decent moving the ball around. But again, defensively, the three of them defensively, it just wasn't strong enough for me. Although what I will say is when I looked at some of the stats again, my boy Jeff, 4 tackles, 1 interceptions, 3 clearances, 4 out of 5 ground duels, 2 out of 3 aerial duels. And just a couple other stats for you guys here is that Carducci was 2 out of 10 going long. If you look at that map, it was crazy. So we're just not winning those balls. We ended up with a higher XG than Forge. So figure that one out just because of our good chances near the end. But as we also kind of highlighted, they won 8 out of the 12 aerial duels during the game.
Yeah, and those stats for Alphonse to me scream like that's the guy that should probably be in the middle of your back three, Dave. Like when you highlight that, like that he's winning the aerial duels, that he's doing what you need. Winning the ground duels, like that's who you need in the middle of your back three. So if we're still playing the back three this week, that's who I'd have in the middle.
Well, it was actually highlighted on the commentary there that Vanny had said that he thinks that Jefferson is the best one-on-one defender in the league, and you know what? Like, you kind of you want to G up one of your players and kind of give them a little bit of kudos, but I tend to agree he's really good when he's one-on-one.
He's the best one-on-one defender on our team.
Yeah,
I'm struggling to say the league.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's really good actually. I think there was one tackle that he did in the box during the game that kind of brought this up, and it was a fantastic tackle. So
I'm continually mystified that he has spent as much time on the bench as he has since he's been with this club.
I know.
Because I've never seen anything that justifies him spending as much time on the bench as he does.
I think it's got to be his distribution, Derek, because defensively he's always the best player on our team, and if
he's good on the ball
against, I wish Everton had him one-on-one against Doku this past weekend, because that was just a shredding of a Premier League defense by a phenomenal player. But he's great at carrying the ball, just his distribution going long and those things, which is getting better. We've pointed to it, but it's not amazing.
But the way we play, I don't think you need your central center back to distribute either. Like you're expecting your distribution to come from your right and left center back. So again, I know I'm harping on this again and again, but that's the guy you put in the mid. That's the guy that takes the TMG role if TMG is not available, in my opinion. So,
and who is your man of the match, Derek?
I think it's Isaiah again. It's becoming a recurring theme, but obviously, friend of the podcast, Gary Griffiths, was on Josh's podcast earlier this week and talked. I know we're not supposed to talk about other podcasts on here, but Gary talked about how much. I think they talked a little bit about how he's always been an aggressive player, but he seems to have been able to challenge. In previous seasons, that often led to frustration or cards or disciplinary issues. And he seems to have really been able to channel, despite the team's struggles, he seems to have been able to challenge that in a positive direction this year, where it's like his play was superb last year. I think we all had him as our player of the year. It's been even better this year and more noticeable because of the drop-off in the rest of the team. But I think he's been able to challenge that aggression in a very positive way and in a way that just has taken his play to the next level. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think what I say too is like he's kind of taken on, because he's been around for a bit now, he's kind of taken on more of a leadership role. Like there was a lot of times during the game when he was the one trying to force things and trying to take on a shot and stuff like that. So that just kind of just brings people along with you when you're trying to do that kind of stuff. So
it was clear Vanny has challenged him personally to elevate his game in certain ways, and he seems to have taken that very seriously as well. Like just from his comments in post game pressers and stuff like that too, you really get the impression that whatever Vanny has done with him, that's certainly a factor in him kind of taking his game to the next level. So.
Awesome. So, just the last thing before I let you go, what did we think of the Skublak business card thing? Because it's been everywhere. It was on all over Instagram, on some of the. It was on ESPN, I think. Again, it was on TSN. They put it on there. Like I'm not a humorless person, so I understand the joke of it, but it just makes the league look a little bit amateur that somebody's like working part time as a fucking real estate agent. You know what I mean? And I know these guys aren't making a ton of money, so I'm not trying to be holier than thou, but I don't know, it was funny when I saw it the first time. I kind of laughed, but then when I seen it like literally everywhere, I was like. God, there has to be better ways to promote the league than, and the worst thing as well is that like York United or whatever their new name is, we're commenting on all these ones saying and tagging his name on it kind of thing, just to kind of so they're obviously pushing that as something to be like to me. It's like maybe concentrate on getting more than 1,100 people at your stadium on a Friday night instead of concentrating on your striker whipping out a business card. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents. I'm a humorless, horrible person with a big rain cloud over my head. But yeah, I just think there's better way. Like I think the icicle kick thing is perfect for like to me that was like the best advertisement of the league. Like that's what we should be focusing on, not some childish crap like that. But anyway,
What about the daylight offside rule that, of course, we're the first one to get scored on? Like, you don't think that's good?
no, like I actually don't mind that because that does focus, and I honestly think that for leagues that can't afford video system referee, I think that the FVS thing, whatever, I actually think that's a good alternative. Like I could see that being in Ireland, to be perfectly honest with you, because they can't afford VAR, but they do have like TV cameras at all the games. So to me, that would work. The daylight thing, I just feel like that if they try and implement that into the Premier League, they'll probably be like, I can't see it happening, to be honest. But I think it's good that we're trialing it. I think that's a good thing for the league. But I don't know, just me being a grumpy old man, I guess. Just
I think the FES has been fine so far. Like it doesn't. I think I said it before, but it doesn't just seem to disrupt the game quite as much as VAR does. I think Dave talked about kind of the psychology of a ref reviewing their own decision rather than having someone else tell them they got it wrong. But it does seem to result in correct calls more often than not. So yeah, I think it's been fine.
Except in the Super game, I thought the overturning of that penalty was not great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Now, the one thing I do want to say about that, though, whenever you see a player go down with both legs completely straight, that is going to lead a referee to believe that you have doved.
Yeah.
Doved.
But it's like you could watch it like 3 or 4 times and still think it's a bit like I don't know. Anyway.
Well, and watch the player's reaction. That kicked him like he knew.
Yeah.
Like even if he dove, he knew he kicked him.
I think it's the ref was afraid of Tommy Wheeldon Jr. in that second there. So it's Tommy's the new Alex Ferguson. So lads, it's been great. The great thing with the league is that there's always something to talk about. We could talk about we're coming to World Cup year and some of the clubs are struggling with their attendances, like as I alluded to with the York United thing. There's so many like things are trialing and all this kind of stuff, and the league's been covered in so many more places. And I actually think that for all the hate that CSB get, they've done a really good job in a lot of the marketing stuff they're doing and the sponsors they're bringing in. So anyway, hopefully we get a better result on Saturday. Are you going to ask Vanny to follow your advice when you do the pre-match presser, Derek? You're going to like, hey, Vanny, I was talking to the lads on the podcast. Yeah. We think Jefferson should be in the middle.
100%. Yeah.
I look.
Well, last time I asked him about when we were heading into the Super game, and I asked him about how the Bloc Québécois back line was feeling heading into that game. He didn't start Jefferson, so maybe I shouldn't say anything.
Just keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
All right, lads. Come on, you Wanderers. Let's keep our chins up and just give Vanny time because he's definitely the right guy for us. All right, take care, lads.
Yep.
Thanks a mil.
Come on, you Blues.
Wanderers.
On you Blues.
Votes, please. Right vote, please. Time to drink up, folks. Get out. Out to vote.